welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I am your host every Tuesday night for Zoom at 8. As well, I am a loan originator, senior director at Old Capital Lending. We are specialists in multifamily. It is a small knit group. So we are nationwide and people know us nationwide. So you can't run. You can't hide in this business. We will find you and we will help you. So tonight I'm excited to visit with the three musketeers or the three stooges or the three amigos or the three blind mice. I don't know what they're calling themselves, but we are excited to visit with a group of investors, Belmonte, John Azar, and DJ Smith. They are all here tonight. We did business with them recently on 2 deals, and it is special. It's great to hear the stories. I want them to inspire you. I started Zoom at 8 about 3.5 years ago because I wanted to create a group of people that could support deals. The Michael Blanc Group has an amazing education program, but they don't have this ecosystem that supports some of the mentorship program students. So I made Zoom at 8, and we've done an amazing job. And it is through networking and educating our listeners. So tonight, I'm going to be bringing in these 3 musketeers that will show you how they did it, how they got started, what worked for them, and what they're looking to do in the future. So hopefully you will find this extremely helpful. Let's get on with the show. All right. So again, every week I have speakers. Today I've got the 3 musketeers or the 3 blind mice. I'm not sure. You guys are going to have to determine what the real title of these guys are. But I met Dante last year sometime. This guy is on fire. I mean, I had to stay. He's a fast talker. So Dante Belmonte, listen to that name. Dante Belmonte, what an amazing name, first of all. He's a seasoned real estate investor and a top performing real estate agent in Central New York. As an agent, Dante focuses on helping investors grow their portfolio of income producing properties. He is the host of the Make Money, Make Sense in Real Estate podcast. He's recently spent most of his years acquiring and rehabbing small multifamily buildings in New York and has been involved in more than 40 multifamily transactions. Dante hosts monthly real estate classes to other investors about the best strategies for investing in real estate, whether it is passive or an active role. In his last venture as managing partner of Victory Capital Group LLC, he has raised millions of dollars of investor capital and is dedicated to working with qualified passive investors. In Dante's spare time, you will find him spending time with his beautiful wife, Madeline, and their daughter, Margot, playing soccer with his men's group, enjoying fellowship with friends, or volunteering in numerous programs at his local church. He is partners in the Victory Capital Group with DJ Smith, who is a professional engineer who turned real estate investor and is the co-founder, as I mentioned, of the Victory Capital Group. His passion has started with private money lending on single family homes and has evolved into sponsoring multifamily real estate private placements, PPM. His commercial portfolio includes 2,000 multifamily units plus passive positions in triple net lease, self-storage, and car wash. DJ enjoys the team nature of syndication. We want to talk about teams and partnerships and educating other professionals with the wealth building power of real estate private placements. His engineering career has equipped him with the necessary skill sets to become a successful syndicator, which he leverages to benefit fellow investors. The Victory Capital Group acquired their first asset December 2021 and has since closed 2 other assets in the North Carolina market. He enjoys playing a key role in educating investors, performing due diligence, managing assets, overseeing renovations, and ensuring financial metrics are achieved. So with both of those guys, they're into educating other people. And John, the last musketeer, he is the founder and managing partner of Peak 15 Capital, a capital advisory and syndication firm servicing commercial real estate operators and sponsors in securing their equity capital stack, as well as co-GPing on deals through the Peak 15 co-GP fund. We're going to talk about funds. John is also a managing member of MACC Venture Partners, a Southeast focused owner operator of multifamily assets, who has syndicated and operated multifamily assets across the Southeast corridor. Under his leadership of Peak 15, he directs strategic development, investor and client growth, and other acquisitions and syndications. John is also a podcaster and co-host of his own podcast called Breaking Resistance, as well as being a regular guest speaker on various commercial real estate conferences and podcasts. So John serves on a board of directors for many different nonprofit organizations, and we are excited to have these guys here tonight. So let's welcome you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. You guys are on the East Coast, and so thank you for taking your evening tonight to spend it with us. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us, Julie.
All right.
Fantastic.
Now listen, I want you guys to make sure we give you all of our attention. So if our friends here in the room would go to the right-hand side, go to view and go to speaker. And there you see on my screen, I see Dante. So Dante.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's awesome. So Dante, you picked up the phone, you called me. I think we saw each other on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I want to thank you, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to serve you, to serve your company. And man, oh man, you're a young guy doing what you're doing. You just closed, 51 single family homes or something like this, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty much a rock star in
Thank
whatever
you.
you do.
Appreciate that.
You guys, how did you get started? How did you hook up with DJ? How did you find John? I got to know it all. So starting with you, Dante.
Yeah.
Tell me your background there.
Really didn't get the formal education from college. I'll kind of give my quick elevator speech there.
Sure.
And so the way DJ and I met is I grew up swimming in his pool, actually. So he was good friends with my father from our church in Central New York when DJ was, when he lived up here with his family. About 7 or 8 years ago, DJ moved down to North Carolina, or really South Carolina, right outside of the Charlotte area. And we still stayed in contact. And, he was started getting to real estate investing. He went through some really intense education. He can talk more about that. And I was selling real estate, 2 to 20 unit small multifamily. And I was doing a lot of that. And every time DJ would come up and we'd see each other, we'd be talking about what we were doing in the real estate world. And DJ was doing a lot of lending on the passive realm. And so one day I was just like, I want to get into the bigger doors. All these duplexes, single families I have, it's just too scattered, too much. I want it all under one roof. I want to be in a good market. So I called up DJ and said, hey, let's do this thing together. And so we've been doing that for just about the last 2 years that we've been partners together. And it's the best a business partner / business wife I've had. And I'm super glad to say that. My wife says I talk to him more than I talk to her sometimes. And it's true, especially during acquisition when we're under contract. And, started networking with a lot of individuals. And that kind of gets over to where I get to John. So individual Chris Larson was an individual I got paired up with through someone else. And Chris was like, hey, there's this great guy I think you should meet. His name's Jalal Azar. And I was like, I don't want to talk to John. No, I'm just kidding. And and so got with John, had some really good conversations with him, had him on our podcast. DJ and I interviewed him, and we all just really kicked it off. John has been a great, you could call him a mentor to us because he's been in the business far longer than we have. And really what we do is we'll find a deal. If we need a KP on it, we'll bring John in. John will play a few more roles other than just KP, sometimes to help us raise some capital. He underwrites all the deals that we look at to make sure that they pass his initial sniff test that he actually wants to sign on the loan. And just, done some great deals together and excited to do a lot more. And we can definitely dive deep into all that a little bit more this evening.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right, DJ, I know you're ready to say something, so let's hear about you.
I'm just really impressed with the Tony Awards. Yeah, can't top that. And I was going to talk about 2,000 doors, but then, somebody's got 5 times that amount, which is really impressive. So yeah, I mean, that's basically how we started. I saw this drive in Dante ever since he was a pup. His dad was worried about him not getting a 4-year degree. And I was basically saying, he'll be fine. And so he's been successful at a lot of other stuff. But we want to let everybody go home tonight. So even though he's only 24, we don't want to spend the whole night talking about him. But it is kind of a match made in heaven, not just because we went to church together, but we complement each other. And I think that's huge for a partnership. Dante fills my gaps from a business standpoint. And I think the same is true for me. With regard to my background, I did a lot of environmental work. I did multi-discipline engineering design build. So when I say that prepares me for multifamily, it certainly does, especially from an operations, inspections, things like that. And also legal. When you're in the environmental world, you're dealing with a lot of attorneys, a lot of agreements, customer service agreements, the things we go through with property managers and so on. All those details are extremely important, and we're dealing with them every day from an operations standpoint, and we deal with them a lot going into these deals. And you got to read the fine print. You got to be a detailed person in this world, and sometimes you got to do it fast, really fast. And I know, Julie, you want to talk about that last deal. Yeah. But it's important that you don't just breeze through things, especially from a legal standpoint. All this paperwork that Julie and her people give us, we actually read it.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Not too many read it, so I'm glad there's somebody on the team that does that. So
exactly.
That's DJ. DJ does that. DJ
It's
does
certainly
that.
not me. I can tell you that.
We don't do that. DJ does that.
Yeah,
That's why
he
we
does
get
the fun
call from
stuff.
DJ.
Somebody's got to do it. But it is important. And, so again, with regard to what we've been able to do, you asked about how we started, and really there were 2 things. One was market research. What market do we want to be in? So we did take some time. We studied all the markets up and down the East Coast, the Carolinas, for all the reasons that everybody knows that they are great markets. We've also hunted Georgia a little bit, really the whole I-85 corridor. It partly makes sense because I'm here. I know there's a lot of other great markets out there. And then the other thing for us certainly was losing my train of thought here a little bit with all this pressure on the podcast. Sorry. Oh, it's not only just picking the markets, but making sure that the integrity of what we do. So as we're out reaching out for investors, and as we're reaching out to brokers, we knew we couldn't outmarket the brokers. That would certainly be a challenge. These guys seem like the guys and ladies that are out there that are brokering these deals, that they know everybody out there. So it was really important to us early on to build relationships with them and just try to get our foot in the door somewhere. And it was really through that relationship building. Dante and I, put on the suits. We went out, we met with them, we got face to face with them early on in the process, and really talked about our strengths. Even though we haven't closed multifamily deals, some of the passive lending that we've done, leveraging Dante's experience as a broker, all that stuff made a difference, I think, in establishing credibility, even though we hadn't done a multifamily deal yet. But we did have to get out there and sell ourselves.
yeah. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right, John, first of all, I'm so glad you're here because I've wanted to hang out with you. We've talked on the phone. I'm like, oh, I'd love to have you on my podcast or on our Zoom at 8. And I didn't know how I was going to get you here. And so I'm so glad you're here tonight.
I'm glad I'm here.
This
and
is like, okay, I get to check that box. You came. So I'm really excited that you're here. So
well, let's hang.
tell us a little bit about you, because we know these guys, but you kind of twirl around, you kind of do your own thing, and you kind of come in and save the day.
I don't know about that. That's an overestimate of what I do, but yeah, those guys are amazing to work with, and you know, you're right about Dante. I mean, that young man impresses me every time I talk to him. So, you know, he is the star of the show for me. So
as a sponsor, I want to ask you a question, because you kind of are, yes, you come in and save the day, but you don't have this attitude of, I'm a sponsor, I'm going to dictate how it's done. You really allow DJ and Dante to do what they do. And you're there holding their hand. From my aspect, from my side of the street, and how you appear in the group, it's a cohesiveness. You're open to, you know, providing support. I think that you do a great job in allowing them to learn and just helping. There's not a lot of sponsors that are like that.
well, thanks. I mean, look, to me, I'm always learning. I learn from DJ and Dante all the time. And I tell them that, I tell DJ that, I tell Dante that. It's, you know, once we stop learning, it's not a good thing. I am a consummate student of everything. I love learning, period, of anything. That's why I'm an avid reader, and I'll stop and talk to anyone and have an in-depth conversation, whether it's a homeless guy on the street, or whether it's whether it's a CEO that I'm meeting, or a partner, or, you know, a syndicator, whatever. I mean, there's something to learn from everyone. And I just love learning, and I am nobody than anybody else, and nobody else is better than me. So that is sort of, you know, the golden rule I try to live by on a day-to-day basis. I'm not always successful, but I happen to do something that I love on a day-to-day basis. I love this industry. I love being in commercial real estate. I love being in multifamily. So that comes easy. It doesn't feel that much of extra work for me to do what we do in day to day in the commercial real estate, because I just love the industry. And once you love what you do, it just doesn't even feel like, you know, you're putting in that much work, quote unquote, into it. I mean, there's work, believe me. There's work. You have to work. You absolutely have to work. Don't mistake loving what you do with not having to work, because you have to work. The work comes first and foremost. You have to bust your ass, but you also have to learn to appreciate what you have and enjoy yourself as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the opportunity that you have given to DJ and Dante, because without you on board, they would not be able to have the success that they've had so far.
Nonsense. They would have found somebody else. It's all good.
Yeah, but you know what? You're a great compliment to them. So kudos to you, and really great to be able to work with you. So kind of talking as a group, Dante and I have some of the similar energy, and DJ is like my husband. He's very even. He's just really kind of balances out Dante's excitement like me. What role do you play in the Three Musketeers? Are you kind of in between Dante with all of his energy and DJ with his analytical mind?
Yeah, I am kind of in between. I feel like I do both. I'm also very energetic, but I'm also very ADD. So I'm like Dante in the energetic standpoint, but I'm definitely not like DJ in the attention span, because I hear every other sentence that people talk to me about. So if you're talking to me, you better talk to me about more than like 3 or 4 sentences, because hopefully I'll catch 2 of them and retain them.
Well, that's excellent. So
I actually never knew that.
I am. No, I'm like literally very, very ADD. So I grew up with, obviously I grew up in a time where ADD was not diagnosed. And that's something I suffered with my entire life.
Wow.
And it's something that everything I did, I had to double the work of everybody else around me. So whether it's in school, whether it's in grad school, whether it's in college or what, like I had to double and triple study compared to everybody else. Like all my classmates, they were like, oh, this test is great. It only took me an hour to study. I'm like, really? God, it took me 4 hours to study for this. How did it take you an hour? That's because I can't concentrate. And
hence why DJ reads the contracts.
And hence why DJ reads the
DJ.
contracts. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So there were 3 things I wanted to talk about tonight. It's education, which DJ has, we talked about having an education. You were an engineer. Dante, he didn't go to school, but you have the education of the hard knocks, which nobody can pay for. And look at your success. And you also do the podcast. Both of you guys are educating other people. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I'm telling you why my passion is educating other people in this multifamily. It's what drives me on a daily basis. But you got to get educated in this community, and you have to invest. So Dante, from your position, you're educating people on your podcast. What do you focus? How can you tell people tonight in the room about getting educated in multifamily? Because like Kate said, she's new here. There's a lot of people. Jamil is new here. So let's talk about education. What's your recommendation?
Yeah. So, education is obviously a very important role in this business. Knowledge is power. And the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, in my opinion. We have the podcast. We do a monthly meetup, and we've probably had over 70 to 80 individuals come through that meetup, and, 30,000 plus plays on the podcast. And when I wanted to get started in this business, I didn't go out and get a formal education. I didn't, go to, some college class to get an education in real estate. It was more self-taught. And that was reading every single book that I could find on multifamily, on real estate, listening to every single podcast, but then also going out and networking with other individuals that have been doing this. Example, John, that's an individual that's been doing this for a while. And that's why I started the podcast too, because I started that almost a little over 3 years ago now. And that was a way of me saying, okay, how can I get in front of some really smart people? How could I pick their brain at no cost for an hour, record it, be able to go listen back to it, let them get their name out there, and then let other people value from that interaction as well. And that's where the podcast came in. And, the guests I've had on there are, phenomenal multi-millionaires, business owners, real estate investors who I couldn't just pick up the phone and talk to, but having that podcast has given me a reason. It's a little bit tougher to start a podcast today because it's a much more saturated space, but that doesn't mean you can't get good guests on, whether you get 5 plays or 500 plays. Everyone wants to talk about what they're doing. Everyone wants to promote themselves and be able to add value to people. And a podcast is a great way to do that. So on the education standpoint, I'm sure a lot of people are doing it here, reading the books, listening to the podcast, but also get out and network. That's a big one. So like your conference that you guys are having later this week, getting face-to-face with someone is huge. And that's what DJ and I did up front when we were getting started. Before we were even looking to buy a property, we wanted to show, these brokers, they get hundreds of emails a week saying, hey, send us your deals. What deals do you have? What do you have off market? The difference that we made was, okay, I'm going to fly from New York. I'm going to fly to North Carolina so I can sit across the table from you, shake your hand, let you know I'm real, versus the guy that's just shooting you an email saying, send me the deals. Building that relationship, and that kind of, funnels into education as well, because DJ and I would spend time with these brokers walking properties too. Maybe not properties we directly were going to buy, but this got us very familiar with the assets in the area, the type of construction, the type of mechanics, just so we were more familiar when we went to go see similar assets. We knew exactly what we were dealing with, and that paid off, I think, greatly.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the podcast, yes, it is saturated, but there are people still starting them. And I agree wholeheartedly that you get in front of and you learn so much as a podcaster as well as a listener. So great input there. How about you, John? You've got breaking resistance, educating people. What can you tell us a little bit more, your aspect on education?
Yeah, I mean, my podcast is not as necessarily educational per se. I wanted to create, and look, for me, I wanted to create a podcast that I had fun with, and I wanted to meet people. I am addicted to people. I'm a very, very much an extrovert and a relationship guy. So to me, I had to create something to feed my extrovertness, even more than speaking or engaging with people or like doing deals. So the podcast was just a way for me to talk to more individuals and great leaders in the industry who started great companies and just talk about their journey. So our podcast is really about, it's called Breaking Resistance because it's about how they broke through their individual lives to get to where they are today. So, each podcast has its own story of, how, where things were, with, somebody get started in, as a almost getting evicted from their apartment, and now they own 10,000 units. I mean, that happens. That's actually one of our guests, where somebody who was completely did not know if they can even make it into college and never made it into college, but now is a co-founder of $1 billion plus company. So, I mean, it's those kind of stories that I want to hear about, and what kind of hurdles they have to bear, come through their lives to get there. So that brings pleasure to me. I don't necessarily do it for educational, but not an educational in the stance of like, here's a deal, let's break it down kind of thing.
Sure.
My stance on education is I educate myself on a regular basis. I educate myself on doing deals on a regular basis. I educate myself on the market. I read, a great amount. And we also have an educational platform, but it's not something that we necessarily go out with and advertise that often. We do have a coaching platform, but we don't, to be honest with you, I don't do it that much, and it's very limited on what we do, just because that's not what I want to do. Like, I don't want to necessarily be a coach. I like coaching, but I don't want to be a coach. I want to do deals. I'm very much a deal guy. So coaching for me is like, I don't know. It's fun. It's great. I never want it to be, and I tell my staff this, I'm like, don't try to go out and expand and get us 100 students in a coaching program, because that's not what I want. And I don't have time, because our coaching program is very, very much one-on-one. They're not getting, sort of the webinar link and they just go out and then you have to listen to it. They're getting me. They're getting me and my underwriters and my deal guy on the coaching calls. So that's why it's very limited, because I don't have that kind of time. I only have a very finite time. It's time in every week to dedicate to coaching calls. So I can't have 20 students at a time.
Well,
so
let's just put the caveat. If you want further information, talk to John. He'll leave this information in the chat.
But you better act quick.
You get 2 for 1.
And if you act in the next 10 minutes, there'll be a Ginzu night.
Exactly. Well. There you go. All right. What I love about you guys is that you're a solid team. And I sat down with DJ one night. It was a late night. I think it was 11 o'clock your time, DJ. And we had an amazing conversation. And it gives me chills now to think about it. But we really got deep. And we talked about team partnerships. We talked about why you like DJ or Dante and why it works. But there was one thing that stood out for me. And I don't know if you are okay with me sharing, but it was something that hit my heart, and I just love it. And I hope it's okay to share. You start every meeting. Would you be open to sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this
is the core of who you are, and that's what I want you to share.
Yeah. So basically, Dante and I meet every Monday via Zoom, because he's up in upstate New York and I'm in Charlotte. And we start every meeting with prayer. And it's something that's woven into our fabric. We mentioned how we met together at church. It's if you're in my circle and you ever ask me to pray for you, it means I'll do that, and I won't just do it as an act. I do it because I believe in it. I stand on it. I've seen it in action. And that's who we are. So I'm not trying to preach to anybody in here, but what that means for Dante and I, when he had mentioned that we went out and met with brokers, or we're trying to get to people to invest in our deals, it's the integrity with which we do that is really important to us. I have to be able to look myself in the mirror every day. And if we're promising people conservative underwriting, yet we're not really conservative, how can you do that? I'm very proud to say in my engineering career, I never lost money on a deal. My company's money was just as important to me as my money is. And I think when you're going to invest with people, it has to be that same thing. You have to put their interests before yours, knowing that if you can secure their interests, you'll succeed too. But it's always about putting the team first. Multifamily real estate, just like any other form of real estate, it is a team game. And one thing that was really important with Dante and I early on is when we told brokers that we were going to follow up, we did. If we told them we were going to call them next week, we did. If we told them we were going to come through with feedback on a deal we didn't like, we did that. And I think that's real important because it helps with the integrity, it helps relationship build. And you can take that into property managers that we deal with. You can take it to investors. And it just, that's where the rubber hits the road, is just making sure people know who you are. You can go through the forensics of any deal, but if you don't know who you're investing with and you don't know who's at the heart of that deal, then proceed with caution. So, a lot of it is just helping people understand who we are, how we underwrite, why that's important to us, and the fact that, we're not out there to try and squeeze every nickel out of a deal. And we don't think that's the right approach in this industry.
So you can see why you're like my husband. You're just so grounding. I could sit here and listen to you all day long. So
I have to jump in here, Julie. What DJ just talked about is what made me love these two guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are the most, full of integrity folks that I've ever dealt with. So DJ is like every conversation I have with him is deep. And every conversation I have with him is inspirational, even to me. So it's this business is all about relationships and trusts, and these guys exudes trusts and integrity.
I love that. I mean, we see so many partnerships that get down the road and they cannot stand each other. All right. And if there's one thing, I say, get educated and buy an LP, be an LP in a deal. It's really important that you vet your partners, because look at the beauty that these guys have created. If a partnership can just kill a deal, there are deals today that are on the market because they cannot get along. And I mean, this is the fundamental issue that in every industry, but in particular, because we're doing the syndication model, we have to get along. And you don't want to jump into these deals quickly. You have to really vet your partners. So with that said, I want to now go into the deal, our first two deals that we've done together. So the first deal, let's break that down. And I'm going to pass it over to DJ, because DJ was so passionate. Actually, and Dante knew everything about every component of the other assets in the area. So DJ, can you talk about the first deal that we did together?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to actually throw it over to Dante, because the way we're structured, Dante is the one who does the initial vetting of the deals.
Okay.
He does our initial underwriting. He gives it the initial sniff test. And once it gets through Dante's preliminary underwriting, and we start getting some positive feedback, that's when I get looped in. So Dante, why don't you start, because it's pretty much how all our deals work.
Yeah. So, quick and dirty, basically I'm putting the ball on the tee. DJ's knocking out of the park. So I get the broker relationship. I find the deal. I vet the deal, put the numbers together. if we put an LOI in and it looks like it's going to move forward, then I'll have DJ hop in the truck, go actually tour the asset. And then if the LOI gets accepted and we go to PSA, I just hand that PSA over to DJ and he basically does all the negotiating with our, I'm still involved with our attorneys. So like I said, I'm putting the ball up on the tee. He's knocking out of the park. So Julie, how in depth do you want me to get about the acquisition of the deal or about the deal?
Yeah,
'Cause I
just
can
talk
go
about
really-
the deal, where it is, how many units.
So
yeah.
this was our second deal, first deal with you guys, second deal we're purchasing, and this came right after the first deal we did. 32 units, Greenville, North Carolina, and nice 1992 asset in a great location. And it was just poised for value add in the sense that we didn't have to put in a lot of capital, but it was more of an operational play. So, one bedrooms were at an average of 475 to 575, I think, renovated. And two bedrooms were about 575 to 675 renovated in Greenville, North Carolina in 1992. And we just knew, looking at the market and looking at the rents, again, knowledge is power, know your data, that there was more upside for those rents, that they weren't even close to being maxed out. And they're also at 100% occupancy. And we've been at 100% occupancy since just about the day we've taken over the deal, because there's just so much demand and there's so much room for rents to grow. So 32 units, 1992 build. Most of the units have been renovated with exception of, I think, like 6 or 7. And the property just needed a refresh on the exterior. So the first thing we did when we went in to buy this property was we repaved the entire parking area. There's 2 parking lots. And I like this for a few reasons. This is, one, going to show the tenants that the new owner cares. They're taking care of the property. And 2, this is also able to justify any rental increases. So if units were already renovated and they needed to be increased in rent, you can't just come in and be like, you need to pay $775 now because that's what you should be paying. This kind of gave us more justification as to how we're raising and increasing rents and, cutting back trees, really freshening up the landscape. We're taking care of some siding issues now and just really improving the property. So again, 32 units, 1992, Greenville, North Carolina. This was an on-market deal. This is with a smaller broker, not the Cushman and Wakefield, not the Marcus and Millichap, not the Capstone. And I like these guys because we can cultivate a very strong relationship with them. And we can also look very aggressive to them. So the asset, and DJ, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, the asset was listed at 2.25 million. And we came right in at that 2.25 million with a super aggressive offer, pretty strong terms. And reality hits when we put the LOI out. We had DJ go visit the property, and there was a lot wrong with the property that wasn't told to us. So like we said, the parking lot was completely shot. I mean, you could lose a Toyota Camry in one of these potholes.
Yeah,
kind of shot.
It was bad.
Lots of air condensers and furnaces and hot water tanks that just really weren't updated like the units were. So we just had a candid conversation with the broker. Listen, we just bought an asset last month. We did a really good job with that. We'd like to buy this one, but we can't purchase at the price that we originally offered. We don't like retrading, but these things were not disclosed to us. There was no pictures, there was no data, and therefore we need to adjust our price accordingly. And we did that. And the broker brought on our behalf, brought the offer to the seller, and our offer was accepted. Our LOI was accepted at that $2 million or $200,000 price reduction at 2.05 million.
Mhm.
And that's about 64,000 a door. When we had individuals and operators in that market reaching out to us that knew we were under contract on the deal and said, hey, if you flip the contract over to us at closing, we'll pay you around 85,000 a door on this deal. So there's already a $20,000 delta on that deal. So that's kind of like the quick and dirty of what we were doing there. Took on some fixed rate bridge debt, and really enjoying the asset to this day.
Except for the appraisal.
Except for
We
the
did
appraisal,
run
yes,
into
sir.
an appraisal issue, and that's what we want.
Which is crazy.
We want to talk about, because not
Yeah.
everything goes smoothly in these
No.
transactions, right? And we had everything underwritten the right way. The broker loved, or the lender loved this,
Mhm.
loved these guys. Everything checked out, and the appraisal came back in, and it came in low. I mean, low.
Not on the acquisition price, but on the stabilized price.
Correct.
Yep. And-
Second year, I think is what it was.
DJ, do you want to talk about the comps that the appraiser was using? Because I
Yeah.
know you'll just go off on this.
Oh yeah, let's leave it to 2 minutes.
we,
So go ahead, DJ.
well, we got a little snippet of it. The long story short is they were using comps from some of them as much as 100 miles away. One of the comps was from Wilmington. The only local comps they had were like little 6 or 8 unit assets that were, self-managed. So they don't have property management fee. I think one of the deals that they used as a comp, we had actually underwritten, and it didn't include the property taxes in the underwriting
For the NOI. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, the cap rates were off. Yeah.
A property we offered on too. We were investing final on. So we knew it. And I
Yeah.
sent them the underwriting, and they're using comps 30 plus years older.
Yeah. So we literally could go on. There was so much
Sure.
wrong with the report. The bottom line is between Julie, it was Lima One that we did this deal with. They were able to, I believe, hold the line on the interest rate on the loan, because we were running up against an expiration for that rate lock. And we ended up having to bring some more money to the table. It was worth it to us. The deal was still good, but the appraisal did send us through a little bit of a loop. And like Julie was saying,
Wow.
every deal we've done, there's stuff there. And I think with what Dante and I do, when these obstacles are put up, you got to charge forward, and you got to get over them, around them, under them, through them, whatever it takes. But your focus every day has to be on checking things off during that due diligence process, checking things off all throughout the acquisition process, checking things with a lender. You got to get out in front of them and give them as much material as they're requesting. Again, you don't want to over give them, but a lot of this stuff is just a matter of being diligent and getting in there and making stuff move and throwing the ball back in their court and saying, what do you need next?
Yeah, that was we did not see that coming, and you guys walked through it gracefully. Not easy.
No.
We lost a lot of sleep over it. Lima One came through with, we had to reduce our proceeds. And, at the end of the day, you guys are going to be rock stars in this, and you're going to increase the rents, and it's going to be an amazing asset if it's not already there. But it was the way that you went about it. You were gentleman about it. You didn't get crazy and screaming, and really, DJ, the way that you were right up front, asked the right questions, spoke up, and you're respectful. And we as lenders, we appreciate that. It's not easy. And we were at the mercy of an appraisal. So, and then my phone rings, you guys close, my phone rings like 4 days later, and Dante says, I got another deal. And so here we are, we're in our second deal. Seriously, how long was it? What was the time frame?
It was, so we closed on that deal in April, that other deal. I think that was like
April, early July was the second closing, but we probably notified her. We went under contract for that one, Dante, like early June.
Yeah. So to set the stage for everyone here, this was a less than 30-day close on a syndicated acquisition of 44 units. So that one we were up against the gun because interest rates were rising. Yeah. Lenders were no longer doing fixed rate bridge debt, and interest rates were continuing to climb. So basically, I went to Julie, here's the deal we have: 44 units, true off-market opportunity in Hickory, North Carolina. Beautiful asset, pool, elevator, solar panels on the roof. And this was, again, a 10-year mom and pop owner who this was their only asset. They had some lady living in one of the units to rent out the units. They're well below market. And Julie and Lima One basically said, hey, the rate's going to expire in 30 days. I don't know if it's going to go up. I don't know if it's going to stay the same, but it's not going to be fixed. And so really, DJ, John, and myself, we strapped down. We said, okay, let's do this thing. Let's make this deal happen in 30 days or less. And we had our syndication documents made. We did due diligence. We raised 1.5 million in, I believe, less than a week. We had a rush on the survey. We had a rush on the appraisal, which the appraisal came in 15% higher than the purchase price on this one. So it's making up for lost time on the last one. And, overall, just a great deal. And we closed it in 27 days.
Amazing.
And that is having a good team in place, being able to syndicate a transaction like that. Cushman & Wakefield said it was one of their fastest, if not fastest transaction in that market. Lima One, you guys were probably pretty happy, Julie.
Oh, yeah.
And
Amazing.
not the effort of myself, not the effort of DJ or John, but the effort of all three of us and all of our team members that were able to do that.
Yeah,
This deal, Julie, was the fastest. I've been doing deals for over 10 years in the multifamily industry, and this was the fastest deal I've ever done. 27 days was the fastest closing I've ever done.
Yeah. I mean, you can get hard money lending, right? That goes fast. This was a fully syndicated capital raising loan that closed.
No survey. We didn't have a survey. We had to get a fresh survey.
Completely unbelievable. I mean, I didn't have time to wash my hair. It went so crazy. So
I think it helps. I think it helps that we also did it with Lima One. I think that in full disclosure, we also did it with Lima One. So that kind of flipped over in that.
Had all of our info.
If we did not have that momentum with Lima One, I really don't know if we could have done it in 27 days. With a different lender. So that just all the cards were lined up right.
Well, and that speaks volumes about going back to the lenders that you work with on a regular basis. Again, this is a relationship business. And so, working with a lender, working with a broker, we've got your back. We're trying to work to make everything go smoothly. So I think that was in full exposure there with Lima One. So they did make it worthwhile. All right.
Yeah, and definitely pay attention to that survey, because those surveyors are stacked up. I probably called no less than 18 different surveyors trying to find somebody that would squeeze us in without,
butchering us in price.
Yeah. I mean, there was one group that basically said their expedite fee would be $12,000. I think we ended up paying, I don't know, Dante, 4,500 or something, maybe 6,000.
Yeah, something super like reasonable for a great job.
And they were basically done in about 3 weeks. But that survey is important. You need to find out right up front whether or not you have it, because the lender is likely going to require it. And if there is an existing survey, make sure you get it in front of everybody so they approve it, because they'll likely want changes to it or potentially want changes to it. So it's real important, even if you have one, that you get it vetted.
So you learn patience. You learn how to underwrite really well based on the market changes. What kind of words of wisdom will you share with our group tonight? Dante, what words of wisdom do you have for people that are looking, who are young like you, who are visualizing themselves being in your shoes? What words of wisdom do you have for them?
It's a team sport is really what it comes down to. At 23, when I got started syndicating, 24, I couldn't get these multi-million-dollar loans. I couldn't have raised, multi-million-dollars of capital in order to do these deals, but being able to have guys like DJ and John on my side have been able to help me do that. So John being able to, be the KP on our loans, able to get these great non-recourse loans on our assets. DJ just being able to help me, start the company and, 50-50 partners be able to grow this. It's a team sport. You can't do, you can go do the duplex, triplex, single family all you want by yourself. That's fine. But once you start getting into these larger assets and other markets and larger projects like DJ, hats off to him. He goes to all of our assets and oversees all the construction. He cuts all the checks. He goes through scopes of value with the contractors, goes through all the bids. He's our construction management guy. I couldn't do that from up here in New York. There's no way. There's just no time. I can't imagine how much money I would get stolen from me by contractors and how much time would be lost if I tried doing it remotely, in my opinion,
Such a compliment. Thank you. So DJ, what about you? What's your words of wisdom for somebody who is W-2 and doing syndication? What's your words of wisdom?
Well, I'll go, I think, in a little bit different direction than some of the stuff that we've talked about. And as you're learning, you need to be developing your processes.
Oh, yes.
Your closing process. What does that look like? Make sure you have a good list of things that you need to do. And as you contact those team members, lenders, and closing attorneys and so on. You got to continue to build that checklist. And that's just one example, because it gets into all the due diligence that you're doing. In addition to that, it gets into when you actually acquire the asset, all the asset management. So Dante and I have really been working hard on building out our tools and processes. They're not perfected. We certainly have leveraged, years of industrial experience in doing some of that. And, one of the things we don't do is we don't pay contractors up front. If we're working with contractors and, they want a significant down payment, it's a deal breaker for us. But what I will do is I will show up every week and write them a check, so they're not waiting on their money.
Yep.
And that's how we negotiate that. So basically we pay them for materials that have been delivered and work that's been installed. That's it.
I love the processes, because you are really on top of that. You've done a great job developing that and really making the changes that are needed to better execute the next deal. So great. All right, John, what's your words of wisdom?
It's they've been spoken already. Surround yourself with people that you want to do business with, that you trust doing business with, that you like doing business with, and that you will learn from as much as they will learn from you. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people you're not going to learn anything from, it's not the right equation.
It is so fun to do business with people that you know, like, and trust. I mean, you guys are a perfect example of finding your place in this world together. I just love it.
Plus I can tell Dante's dad on him when I don't like what he's doing.
It's true. Even though I'm married, have a child, and live on my own, I still fear my father coming through that front door. No.
Well, you guys, I want to thank you so much for your generous time and again, the faith in me and my company, and being able to support you guys through 2 deals. We look forward to an amazing future together.